Hello, Guy Griffiths here from GG Fit with a version of a talk that I gave last week at the Gym Operators Conference in Solihull. Recording this in November, as you can probably tell from the hairy growth on my top lip. Lots of people at the conference last week supporting Movember, some great raffle prizes and other charity shenanigans going on, raising money for a great cause. But enough of that. I want to talk to you about HealthSeekers. My purpose and the purpose of GG Fit is to help more people to get fitter and healthier. And we work with health and fitness clubs on member retention initiatives in the main. But something that has spun out of some of the retention work we do is the HealthSeekers movement. So I want to take probably 20 minutes or so. It was more like half an hour, 40 minutes with questions and interactions last week. But I'm going to whiz through the presentation that I gave at the conference. If you do have questions or comments or thoughts, please, wherever you're watching this, pop them in the comments area below, and I'll try and get back to you as soon as I can. Before I start and get into the deck, though, I want to tell you a quick story about a lady who was called Heidi, still is called Heidi, who came for a health check at a leisure centre at one of the pilots that we run for HealthSeekers. She came along because she was run down and tired and wanted to be healthier. But she didn't want to exercise or work out, as you'll find out in a minute. Now, she got on the Tanita scales with her coach and discovered that she was 12 years older metabolically than her chronological age, which kind of showed how run down she was. And they went through a few of the stats. And before her coach, who was a very good health seeker coach, been through the coaching program that we run, and was already, she had a coaching mentality. But before she asked her any questions even, Heidi said, "I'm not going to exercise." And the coach said, "No problem, what else?" And Heidi said, "I'm not going to eat any differently." And the coach again said, "No problem, what else?" And repeated this a few times, which in this context seems a bit strange, but when you're in a coaching situation, you can use these kind of questions. This is something that her coach knew. And eventually Heidi came up with, "Well, maybe I could drink more water." And they had a look back at her stats and saw that her hydration was quite low. So went through the GROW model probably and set some SMART goals, I expect. And Heidi went off with a plan to drink more water, came back a month later and found that she was only 10 years over her actual age, in her metabolic age on the Tanita body composition. So she'd reduced her metabolic age by 2 years by drinking more water and possibly less alcohol, less coffee. But she looked better, she's felt better, and there were two crucial kind of conclusions to this story, if you like. Heidi said to her coach, "I don't get the headaches anymore." And her coach looked at her notes and said, "Well, we didn't talk about any headaches." And Heidi said, "I didn't like to because they were so debilitating." Heidi was really dehydrated before and had really improved. So point one, I don't get the headaches anymore. Point two was, she then said to her coach, "I'm now ready to be a bit more active." So hopefully this story illustrates a little bit the case for health seekers, people who don't want to work out but do want to be healthier. So I'm going to take you through a short slide deck here talking about the commercial opportunity that you're probably missing. Let me get onto the deck. I'm going to go into the fact that the industry and the nation, in fact, is a crossroads. I'm going to talk about how we need to shift our thinking, again, as a fitness industry, as a nation too, and then talk about the HealthSeekers model and how I see this as the future of the fitness industry. As I said, we had questions and interactions as I went through this at the Gym Operators Conference last week. If you've got questions, please pop them in the comments. Let me get into the facts, first of all, that we really think the nation is at crossroads at the moment. The NHS, social care, the health system generally is under a lot of strain right now. However, 70% of people, according to Public Health England, as we came out of the pandemic, want to be healthy. They want to improve their health. They just aren't exactly sure how they want to do it. The strain that we're seeing, a lot of it is down to weight management, which can be linked to or can actually be caused by mental health challenges. And 50 billion is, I think, a conservative estimate of what obesity is going to cost. I'm not going to go into a lot of detail on the weight loss drugs that are coming in. They're a bit of a sticking plaster in my mind. And while we do need a solution as a fitness industry, I think there's a much bigger opportunity to stop people going onto those meds. On the flip side, people want to improve their health. They want to sleep better. They want to eat and move and think better, but they need support and coaching with this. Critically, they don't want to work out. They don't want to sweat. They don't really want to exercise. 80% of the population are not gym goers, or even more. And the people who aren't gym goers don't generally think of gyms as healthy places. So we need to change that. We need to shift our thinking and also shift the thinking of the nation. The fitness industry sees, other clubs as a threat. We also see some of the names mentioned here as a threat. I won't say them out loud for fear of being sued. But actually, I know quite a few fitness instructors and personal trainers who are now working for food delivery companies, which it breaks my heart. But, did they not see a future in the fitness industry in helping people to be healthier? Obviously not. And, now they're making their money. They're not really building a career, but they're delivering more weight problems and lack of movement to the nation. We are under threat. The biggest threat, though, is the fact that the fitness industry seems to constantly be going after the same 17, or it was 16.9% in the recent Leisure Database report. We're all fighting for the same slice of the pie, trying to appeal to people who want to do high reps, or, the really keen members who are doing group exercise classes. Let's focus in on the most valuable participants. Those members aren't going anywhere. I'm not suggesting this isn't a retention strategy. We need to stop focusing on the fit few and stop trying to chase people on this member merry-go-round, because actually all this is doing is just creating more strain, more churn, higher turnover of staff as well as members. It's unsustainable. We need to look outside of the traditional fitness persona and bring new people to our clubs. So a little bit about the threat. On a positive note, we have seen growth in the fitness industry since it began in the early 60s. Over the last 50, 60 years, we have got up to 16.9%, over 10 million members in the UK. This is great news, very positive. I don't believe, as some people have reported, it is exponential growth. I think there's more of a plateau here. However, I do believe that we can get to 20% and beyond by 2030, which is UK Active's bold vision of 2030. However, even they have changed the language a little bit. We don't expect to see 20% of people or of the population working out in our leisure centres, exercising in our health clubs. The narrative and the language has changed in that vision statement to say we want to support 20% of the nation. We can definitely support them. We just need to think beyond having them exercise or work out or swim or play badminton. We can get them moving more. We can get them eating better by supporting them and coaching them from our venues. So that's how we grow further. A little bit about the perspective, again, that we need to change, or really another way of drawing this, is to look at a bell curve and to say, at the moment, 17% almost of the population are gym members. So these are the keen beans. The ones right at the top of the bell curve are the ones doing fitness challenges, races, high reps, that kind of thing. At the other end of the bell curve, we've got the 17% who are dismissive. If you're in the US, it's probably more like 20% at either end. That doesn't fit into our 1766 model quite so well. This is a battle. There wasn't a battle in 1766, but the dismissive, that end, are more likely to be the people on GLP-1 or weight loss medication. I'm not saying we mustn't have a solution for them. I think it's important we do. We had a little debate at the conference last week about some of the great stories of people who are on weight loss drugs and who are training and who are getting great results. But that is a hard battle. The middle of the bell curve, where the majority of the population are, the 66%, are the opportunity. They are the health seekers. And what they want is to feel better. They want motivation. They want lifestyle change. They want support and choices around their behavior change. They don't or can't or won't work out. They don't want to be fit necessarily. They need coaching and support. And I know this word is on there twice, but it's an important word. And again, something we debated last week. Choice is really important. Think back to the story of Heidi. If she had been told to run on treadmills or pick up weights, she probably would have she probably would have walked away from that leisure centre. But given choice and choosing to drink more water and then going through the way she was going to do that with her coach was what moved Heidi forwards and brought her metabolic age down by 2 years, and then further as she started to become more active. So choice is really important. So a little bit about the threat and growth and a different perspective. This is how we're hoping to shift the thinking of the fitness industry and of the nation and wider afield. So how does HealthSeekers work? Well, another way of drawing the gym model is to look at a theoretical 1,000 member club, which probably has 500 members who just go to the gym. It might have another 400 who go to group exercise classes as well. And there may be 100 or so, perhaps 10%, who have personal training. The retention strategy, very broadly, there's lots of things we do for retention, but if we push people up that pyramid, they're going to stick around longer. What I'd like to do with this 1,000 member club, though, is to put another 500 or 600 members on a lower level of visiting once a month for their health check and their coaching appointment. Once a month or even once a quarter. These are the health seekers. We're not necessarily trying to push them up the pyramid just now, but they're a great base level that makes our business even more resilient. Let's stretch that membership out and have these health seekers on a subscription or a membership. Let's have 1,000 health seekers visiting us once a month or once a quarter, not using the equipment, not swimming in the pool, not going to classes, but visiting for support and coaching with their choices to be healthier. We might then build different verticals to say, look, we also offer remote coaching, nutrition advice, remote personal training. We could build several other pyramids and control this with some vegetable subscription boxes or some low alcohol beer or CBD oil or whatever solutions, electromuscular stimulation, the Miha Body Tech EMS workouts, which again, they are workouts, but they're a different modality of being healthy. So by building Health Seeker memberships, we're broadening our subscriber base, our member base, we're making the business more resilient, and people might move up the pyramid and buy more services and be more retained at your club. Maybe that people transition from a remote membership to become a gym member, or they might transition the other way. We've seen people cancel their gym membership in the summer because they want to play tennis or go running. But rather than just let them leave and hope they come back, let's drop them down onto a Health Seeker membership where they still visit once a month or once every couple of months, and also maybe have the ability to book a pay-as-you-go visit if it's a particularly rainy day and they want to run on a treadmill. Diving down into how a health membership could work, the core of it is a health check. So people who come in, like Heidi, for a measurement on the body composition machine, lady here on a body tracks, it could be a Tanita, it could be a Seca, it could be an in-body, don't really mind. Something that gives you some stats and some readings that you can go through with your coach. Probably not all of the 25, 30 numbers that are on there, but just 3 or 4 of the ones that interest you. There's then a coaching conversation. This is where the real value of the 25, 30, when we've charged £50 or more in London for these appointments. The coaching is key to this. It's listening to the client, giving them some choices, and planning what they're going to change over the next month when they come back for their follow-up appointment. Now, there are other programs that we have that I'll allude to in a minute. That's the core of it and the way we get more people into the club. The success of these projects, of course, depends on processes and systems. So having follow-ups, having triggered reminders, ultimately sales and retention and engagement. Also, absolutely key is education. First of all, staff need to be true coaches and understand behaviour change, motivational interviewing, and healthy conversations. It's important that your current members know what's going on here as well, because they could be advocates. They could bring their friends and family in for health checks. It's a great way of getting health seekers into your club. And then ultimately you're educating the public too about the fact that you are not just a gym, you are a health club where people can come to find out about their health. People don't want to go to their GP to find out how healthy they are or not. They don't want to sit in a waiting room. So we need to change the narrative and understand that people can come to a leisure centre for a health check. Add-ons and upsells are also really important. Complementary services that go alongside that I drew in the second pyramid, but things like wellbeing walks where people can get together in communities and hold each other accountable, or education seminars, or even webinars, or just content that will help people more generally with their health. Really critical is not to sell the gym. All the campaigns that we send to bring health seekers into clubs explicitly says no need to join, or on an ex-member campaign, no need to rejoin the gym. People coming in for a health check, some of them will think there is a catch because it is a gym after all that they're coming to, but they don't need to join the gym. We just want to support more people with these kind of initiatives. Another way of drawing the fitness membership, not a timeline as such, but we've got basically your gym members and your personal training members there. What we're doing is we're putting health seekers in at a lower cost, lower price point by membership level. The health seekers operating system can sit there. I'll go a little deeper into that in just a sec. And there might be a health score or app at the very bottom of the pyramid, which could be free or it could be 99p a month, something like that. That gets people interested, and depending on what they score, they get invited in for a health check. Within the health check, they might then get offered a Feel 5 years younger 12-week program. And that's all part of the progression to bring people up, possibly to the gym. But more importantly to me, from a retention point of view, is to say, those people who don't want the gym membership at certain times of the year, let's drop them down to a health seeker subscription where they just visit once a month. It's a great way of saving cancellations of people who don't have time or can't afford their membership anymore. We don't want to see you go. Why don't we downgrade you to a health seeker membership where you only have to visit once a month, but you can carry on with whatever other health or fitness pursuits you're doing. The health seeker operating system, I'm not going to go through the full details of this. There's more in the download you can get at the end in another few minutes, but it's basically a way of using 4 of the 5 growth levers to generate leads, convert people, and retain them. And it's things like clarifying personas and understanding the pricing model and processes that work, that bring together a successful health seeker program. So that's how we build members up and how we embed the program within clubs. The final little bit before I get into the downloads is just a couple more stories for you. One of the very early trials we did was with a Staiku body scanner, and one of the ladies that came for one of those appointments in London was not upset, but she basically had a 3D model printed that these guys would do a Staiku scan and then print a 3D model of the member. She really didn't like it, and messaged her coach the next day, having set some goals to go out running, messaged him to say she just dropped 100 quid at Sweaty Betty and was out running around Highgate Woods. So, really powerful story of how these scans help people with their behaviour change and help motivate them. Slightly different story. David was looking at his visceral body fat on his Tanita scan, and again messaged his coach about a week later to say that he'd become vegan. Probably needs some advice, and you don't just want to switch your diet so drastically. I think it's a good example of how people really change. Heidi, I mentioned earlier, the short version of the Heidi story is that her headache stopped when she increased her water intake. We now know that there's a bit more behind it than that. And this chap came along to one of the trials we did at a Body Street studio, an EMS boutique studio on the High Street up in Coventry. Signed up for EMS workouts for himself and Tanita scans for all of his staff as well, as part of what he found out. So there's some stories there. You can get more stories at ggfit.com/healthseekers. And that, you can either scan the QR code here if you want, or it might be quicker to type it in. It's not a long URL. But from there, yes, you can hear more stories. But first of all, you might want to download the Shift to Health Seekers playbook. It's maybe 10, 12 pages of some of the stuff I've been talking about, the 1766 model, the operating system, details in there. So go and have a look at that. If you download that and like it and you want to continue the journey, there's various checklists that you can take yourself forward on the journey and start building it and joining the Health Seekers movement. You might also want to listen to Health Seekers Sparks and Health Seekers Stories, a series of podcasts with stories of the programs we've been running and some educational and hopefully mind-shifting ideas and advice as well. Now, the playbook and the checklist are great. We know that people download them. We know that people look at them. The hard part is taking action. So as part of the conference last week, and this, if you're quick, this may continue and may still be available, but we are running a Health Seeker Accelerator program in early 2026 to help clubs to really kickstart the Health Seeker operating system. There's a couple of reasons for that. First of all, we want to get more people on the movement, but also we want to share the stats and the data and see what works and what doesn't. We're going to be running this at 10 sites, probably with 4 or 5 operators. There are 8 pretty much signed up already, so we're looking for a couple more, and there were a couple of independents that are keen to do it off the back of the Gym Operator Conference. But it's about looking at the content that we have written and provided. So there's a done-for-you model, there's a prospect bank of cohorts, there's recommended pricing. Then we want clubs to do it a little bit their own way so that we can see what works, what doesn't, what works for a trust, what works for a multi-site, what works for an independent. But we're going to bring all that data together. We're going to jump on Teams calls and share experiences and stories as we go through this accelerator program. And what that is going to do, it's going to take us from 17 or 16.9%, as reported by the Leisure Database this year, 2025. And it is going to show us exponential growth. We're going to get up beyond 20% and towards 30% by 2030. So that's the mission. We're going to get more people into our clubs to support them, coach them, help them with their choices, probably not workout or exercise. So if you want more information, download the playbook. If you want to reach out and talk about the accelerator program, please drop me an email to guy@ggfit.com. Thank you very much for listening. I look forward to hearing from you.